The AAW supports your total learning experience provided to our nearly 16,000 members and 365 local chapters throughout the country. Please enjoy this woodturning tip from an AAW woodturning master. Happy turning!
Hi, my name is John Beaver. Prior to becoming a professional woodturner, I worked as a photographer and motion picture cameraman specializing in product-driven TV commercials. I'm here today to talk about some of the concepts of product photography and hopefully give you some tips and ideas that will help you take better pictures of your wood turnings. I consider photography to be the last step in the wood turning process. Unfortunately, it's also a difficult step that needs to be learned and sometimes requires as much effort to learn as the wood turning process itself. You make a bowl, you sand it, you make it beautiful, you put a final finish on it, and what do you do with it? Sometimes you keep it at home, but often you give it away to friends or you sell it and you no longer have it. So the only record you have left of it is a picture, and you want that picture to be as good as possible. What I'm going to talk about today are some principles of photography, not a technical how to take better pictures of your bowl, but what we're trying to accomplish when we take a picture of the bowl, what we want it to look like, and some ways to maybe improve our photography. The basic principles are making the object bright, making the object attractive, giving shape to the object, and giving depth to the overall photo. Those are the four main principles of lighting for photography, kind of the four main principles of photography in general. And I'm going to go through each one of them and how it pertains to wood turning and see if I can give you some tips to help make your photographs of your work a little bit better. The first object for lighting is to make the object bright. Bright enough so the camera sensor can record it properly. Now, if it was as simple as that, we could all just put a flash on top of the camera, take a quick snapshot, and everything would be great. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as that. It's not the most favorable place to put the light. It causes harsh reflections. And so it's best if we have a light that we can move around and place in different places so we can put the light in the most favorable place and make the piece the most attractive. Usually we use a soft box, something that diffuses the light, something that spreads it out. We don't want a pinpoint light. We want a big soft source that's adjustable, that we can, I could call it fishing with photography. You move the light around and you can put it in the place that's most favorable to accomplish all your goals. So hopefully you have something like that. If not, I recommend getting something. They're very inexpensive. You can go on Amazon and buy a softbox kit for $59 with a stand and ways to move the light around, and it's very, very well worth it. So that's the first step to do, is to make the object bright, but to make it bright with the proper lighting and the proper placement of the light. The second principle in photography and lighting is to make the object attractive. Now, dealing with wood turnings, they're round objects, they have a lot of curves to them, they're oftentimes shiny. So where do you start this? How do you find the most attractive place? You're going to see somewhat of the reflection of the light in the piece. On a dull piece and an open bowl, you can hide it pretty well. On a closed bowl or a hollow form or a shiny piece, there's no way to completely hide the light reflection. I like to only have one light reflection. I like to use one light source and maybe a reflector card to help the other side. And generally, I'm going to start with the light about 90 degrees from the camera to the piece. That way, the reflection that you see is going to end up in the top left corner, kind of a soft highlight in the upper left corner or upper right corner of the piece, and it's going to make it attractive, and it's going to make the wood stand out, but it's not going to leave the highlight right in the center of the piece where it's very distracting. Once you set that light at 90 degrees, then you want to go fishing with it. Move it around, back and forth, up and down, until you find the most favorable place for it. And that's really probably the most fun and the most challenging part of photography, is to find that spot. And so you have to be a little bit patient. You have to try some things. You have to move the light backwards. Maybe the light reflection needs to work around all the way to the side so the light moves past the object. Sometimes you need to move the light a little bit forward so you see some detail in the grain or something like that. But you can't just set the light in the same place for every piece. You have to move the light around, up, down, frontwards, backwards, sideways, until you find the most attractive spot to see the reflection, to see the highlight in the piece. The third thing we're trying to accomplish with lighting and wood turning is to give shape to the wood turning. If the light were dead in front of the turning, right over the camera, the piece would look very, very flat. We're talking about round objects that have depth to them. We want that depth to be shown in the photo. So to accomplish that, by the light being on the left side and a little bit of shadow on the other side, the light wraps around it and the piece looks round. If it's too dark on the side opposite the light, you can use a white reflector card to bounce some light back in. I prefer not to use a second light because that gives you two sets of shadows and that becomes a little bit distracting. However, the one shadow is also really helpful. When you see a shadow on the table underneath the piece, you see the depth of the shadow and it helps give you that shape of the piece. So it's very important to not have the light dead in front. You want the light around to the side. You want it in an attractive place, but you also want it to be brighter on one side and darker on the other, so you have a little bit of shape to the piece and the piece looks a little more 3D. The last thing we're going for when taking pictures is to give depth to the overall photo. Again, if you light it from the front and it's flat and you're on a solid gray piece of paper or a solid white background, the picture doesn't have depth. The picture looks two-dimensional and you want it to look three-dimensional. The easiest way to accomplish this is purchasing a graduated photo backdrop. They're available on Amazon, any photo store. They cost $49 or $50. They graduate from white into black or white into gray. And what that does is the eye senses that there's some depth to the picture. If you combine that with the lighting in the correct place and some shape to the vessel, then when you look at the final picture, the picture has shape and has depth and it looks more three-dimensional. You see the shape of the vessel, you also see the depth of the picture. So those are the overall principles of photography. If you take your time, fish around with the lights, get a nice backdrop, work hard at it to make a nice photo of your piece. You'll have a great record of it and the piece will look realistic. It will have depth, it will look round, it will look attractive, and you'll have a really nice representation of your work. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can go to my website, johnbeaver.net, look under resources, and I have a photo tutorial that I wrote that explains all these principles and a little more technical information about the camera and about how to accomplish these goals. Thanks for watching.
Want to learn more about creating professional quality photos of your wood turning? John Beaver will be sharing more advice at his panel at the AAW International Symposium in Portland, Oregon. The symposium is an excellent opportunity to watch world-class demonstrators share their techniques, to find out about the latest innovations in tools and materials, or to get inspired by the Instant Gallery and other wood turning exhibits. Join us to experience the creative passion and company of your fellow turners firsthand. AAW's Wood Turning Trade Show will be jam-packed with state-of-the-art lathes, accessories, tools, supplies, fine selections of wood, and anything else you might need. Sit in on a wide range of wood turning demonstrations, learn tricks and techniques, and have a chance to hold the extraordinary tools in your own hands. Anything a wood turner can want will be available for purchase at the symposium, with experts who can point you to the equipment best suited to your needs. Preparing for the symposium has never been easier with the free AAW Symposium app. Through the Guidebook app for mobile devices, you can have your schedule, list of demonstrators and trade show exhibitors, and even floor plans all in one place. Save time and install the app before the event, and use it to share your symposium experience on social media. Register for the 2018 AAW International Symposium today. Happy turning.